Namaste. Welcome to episode 10. In episode 9, we talked about Bhuta Shuddhi, Nadi Shuddhi, and I think that's good enough for us to look at the Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha, or the basic first four steps of Yama, Niyama, Asana, and Pranayama. A lot more to it, but we'll leave it there. We'll now get into the next level. So, what happens when Bhuta Shuddhi and Nadi Shuddhi are effective? What will not happen at that stage? You will not dematerialize, please be clear. You will not vanish into thin air. You will probably not also be a Siddha, because you should have started with a higher position for that. I'm talking not most of us are not starting with a higher position to become a Siddha in this birth itself. So you can be rest assured that there is no threat to life. You want to still enjoy your life, please do. Okay. You have to go a long way. You are still in LKG. But then there are a few things that you will enjoy, because the bhutas get a little less locked. Okay. Loosen up a bit. Panchabhutas loosen up a bit. The Sharira loosens up a bit. And then because it loosens up a bit, the Apanchikrit process starts to happen. That means the demixing starts to happen. And because demixing starts to happen, you start to move towards Tanmatra. That means Tanmatra. Tan means the basic element. Matra means only that. Matra. Tanmatra. It's only that. Okay. But Tanmatra is ultimately related to the five elements of the Panchabhuta in a totally 100% demixed state and dormant. That is Tanmatra. But in between there are a lot of stages. That means you become a lighter version. You are no longer a gross version, a very dense version. A dense version, a word density or dense in Sanskrit is called Thimir. Okay. Thimir doesn't mean arrogance. Particularly in Tamil, Thimir is translated to arrogance. Thimir basically means thickness, density, more of earth element, more of ignorance, and so on and so forth. Okay. There is Shankara would say Ajnana Thimir. That means Ajnana Thimir means ignorance. That means you don't have jnana. The density of you are so dense that you don't have jnana. You have to remove, rather, you have to thin yourself. It's called a thinning process, you can say. You have to thin yourself from that thickness so that the subtler functions of yours becomes more prominent, okay, and more functional. And more subtler it becomes, then you can understand and live and experience subtler things, and therefore you can move towards jnana. So the ajnana thimir has to be removed level by level. I would say removed, I would use the word thin. You have to use the thinner to move from very, very dense, very, very thinner, high level of density to lower levels of density to thinning level of density and move ahead till ultimately you get to know in a state where the Panchabhutas are in a standalone, non-active state. So, are there indications for you as we go along? Can I sense myself? Is there any change that will happen? Okay. Yes. There are two things that I would say for you to understand. One is called the plasticity and the other is called the limbidity. Two words, if you go to Google, it will tell you what it is. Plasticity is the quality of being shaped or molded. That means the body itself gets a qualitative change with an ability to shape or mold yourself. So as I said, if you are working at cell level and intracellular levels and then creating that pipes, you require that that kind of quality in your body to be able to shape and mold it that way. And that happens with your asanas, Anna Shuddhi, Nadi Shuddhi, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, okay, all this, okay, that the body changes. There is a qualitative change in your body, okay, which helps you shape and mold. Plasticity is also defined as the adaptability of an organization to changes in the environment or differences between various habitats. So this qualitative change that happens at the cell and intercellular level from all types of cells, okay, is such that it gives you a certain adaptability. It gives you flexibility to mold, that is one level. Adaptability to environmental changes. That means, for example, if it is very hot, the body will cool itself. If it is very cold, the body will heat itself. What you call as homeostasis or thermostasis, that happens here. So the homeostasis functions can work themselves. Okay. So which means the body devolves certain capabilities to be able to adapt to outside changes, environments. You would heat and cold for you to directly understand. Okay, but there's a next level I'll take you, and then the highest level I'll give you an example. The next level is not only heat and cold, even what is happening outside. That means there is a lot of noise outside. You can detach from that. Okay, that means it helps you meditate in the sense. Okay. There's a lot of vibration that is happening. Noise is an example of vibration. Lot of vibrations that are happening. The earth is vibrating, your body is vibrating. The solar system, because of its movement, is vibrating. Any movement, any change means there is a vibration associated with that. Gross level vibration is sound. Okay, and subtle level vibrations, you can get subtler to very extreme level of subtleness. Because at the end of the state, we are talking about a dormant state where there is no vibration. So if you have to recognize that, you have to tune your body to be innocuous. That means I can make my body not respond to vibrations outside, vibrations inside. That is one level. There is a story of Kaka Bujandi. In Tamil we'll call it Kaka Bujandar, or in Sanskrit they call it Kaka Bushandi. Okay, there are different names. A rishi who has lived for several kalpas. I mean, the time scales of kalpa we discuss in a different episode. That means this is billions of years. He's still living. Where is he living? He is living in some high altitude place, some hilltop. Okay, and he is in the form of a crow. Okay, that's the description of the Maharishi. Okay, the yogic person who has done that. So there, when Vasishta met him and asked him, that's a story in Yoga Vasishta. Okay, saying, how are you able to live through so many eons? Billions of years. Okay, he said, and when kalpas change, which when talk about cosmology, that there is a quiet period for even the cosmos when nothing exists. Okay, and then it recreates itself, and that's a cycle that goes on. Okay, even then he is alive in some form. So he says, I have the ability, okay, to deal with the environment and still remain alive. That's the highest that I have seen. So if you are talking about yogis, siddhas in the Siddha Marga, Natha Marga, Siddha Marga, Gauri Marga, when they are able to live long, very long, with the body, without body changing the forms, etc., etc., and that's the big picture. But the basic level is plasticity. The plasticity is the quality of being shaped or molded that you can do. The second is the adaptability of the organism to changes in environment or differences in various habitats. That means if you are here, you can live without cloth. You can go to Himalayas and live without clothes. That's a kind of extremes, or rather intense adaptability that you can get into. But you can see the plasticity in yourself. You can sense it. We'll come to this sense, the sixth sense that you have. Okay. The second thing is limpidity. Okay. This is the quality of being clear. Okay. When you say quality of being clear, transparent, and easily understood. Now this has got three dimensions when you talk about what do you mean by quality of being clear. When you say physical, okay, this refers to water and air, and no non-polluted air, non-polluted water. The limpidity is supposed to be higher. Okay, there's a transparency. If you go to very pure water, okay, you can see the stone which is 10 feet, 15 feet below the surface of the water. The whole thing is so clear that you can see that. That's a kind of limpidity. Without any distortion, you can see that. That means there is no diffusion, there is no distraction, okay, there is no hiding, there is no cloudiness, there is no turbidity, okay, it's all the opposite of that. Second thing is intellectual. This is physical. Intellectual means I have a clarity of expression, I have a clarity of thought, I have clarity of understanding. Okay, I can speak without ambiguity. I can tell you exactly what I want to tell you, and you will understand it that way. There is another limpidity which talks to your clarity, confusions here, which is called the brain functions and stuff like that. The third thing is limpidity of emotions. It's all in Google definitions, okay? Which is calm and peaceful mind, free from worries and distress. Peace, calmness, tranquility, various shades of that, increasing shades of that will happen. Okay, so this is called limpidity. So plasticity and limpidity are direct benefits of Bhuta Shuddhi, Nadi Shuddhi. And how do you know? You will know because you can sense it yourself. So if you take care of your Annamaya Kosha with Anna Shuddhi and then do a Hatha Yoga, asanas, pranayama, okay. We'll talk about different types of pranayama with the aim of samadhi. That's important. Okay. If you don't do samadhi, it's going all over the place. So you balance. Okay. If you do that, then the direct benefits are plasticity and limpidity of the body and the mind. To the extent, in some yogas, they use only that. For example, if you say Laya Yoga, Nada Bindu Yoga, Nada Bindu Kala Yoga or Nada Yoga, okay, they only talk about taking this plasticity and limpidity to an extent that, the science of Nada, using the science of Nada, right, they are able to capture the vibrations and bring it to a halt, to a non-vibrating state. Nada Anta. Nada is nothing but the sound of vibrations happening through whatever is flowing through the nadis. Okay. That vibration, the vibration in the cell and vibration in the pathways of the cell, which is captured, regulated, moved up, okay, and then when you reach at this level as you go along, that vibration sound itself will not be heard. So today you are not able to hear because you are gross. In some portion, when it is reaching some level of growth, in the chakra system it is called this anahata. Okay. Anahata chakra. That means when you start to hear the sound. When you start to hear the sound, then you hold on to that sound, okay, and then take it up and up and up and up. At some point of time, it becomes, you have to focus it on a dot. That means all the nadis have been aligned to this bindu, here, 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 whatever, up to here, okay. And then that's a practice by itself. That means you use the nada, the sound of what is the vibration in your cell carried through your intercellular spaces, through the nadis, okay, of not only what is happening inside but outside also, and then make it into a silence. That is simply Nada Yoga, Nada Bindu Kala Yoga. So please understand that I am now brought in the idea that when we say all that is outside the space goes through this, not only prana, which is the life force, but subtle vibrations of what is happening around you also goes through that. So we have talked about movement of prana, we have talked about movement of vibrating sounds, which is called nadam. Okay. The third level is the light itself is moving in. When you are in daylight or whatever, the light itself is moving in. The cell also create lights, biooptics is called. Okay. So the cellular light as well as the light inside itself can be moved through these nadis, okay, and then taken up, and then you will see light. You will see a white light, they say. Okay, so that is also creating a limbidity of physical nature. All this is limbidity of physical nature. But when you do limbidity of physical nature, plasticity and limbidity together are essentially removing the thimmer of the Panchabhuta together, demixing it to some level, thinning it to some level, so that you are moving towards jnana, you are moving towards siddhis, you are moving towards the ultimate realization of Paramatma. That is the big picture. Okay, so you must understand that. Okay, so prana was one level, pranayama was one level. Then I now slowly introduce the concept of nada yoga, which is by vibrations and stuff like that. Then we also talk about light, enlightenment, if you say. Okay, these are all physical in nature. You are dealing with the physical part in a quantum biological sense. Okay, and then doing it. How do you know it's happening? Because you start to sense. You start to sense that. You start to know that. Somewhere there's a sixth sense in you. The sense which is not vision, which is not hearing, which is not smelling, which is not taste, which is not touch. Not the sense of touch. Or even a sense inside which is given to you. It's a sixth sense, a kind of touch sense that you have. But then it evolves a little more. The sixth sense itself is not a one state of being. It evolves, the sixth sense. Okay, the sixth sense evolves, and that sixth sense is what you do. Okay, what you start to sense when you do pratyahara. We are coming to pratyahara. Pratyahara, they say, is inward movement, inside what is happening. I am saying the sixth sense is inside. Okay, and you will get to know the sixth sense when you start practicing asana, pranayama, anna shuddhi, nadi shuddhi, bhuta shuddhi, and all that happens. When that progression happens, suddenly you will say, I am able to sense a few things. And I would tell you, it's not dramatic. You already have it. For example, if you are hungry, if you are thirsty, okay, you will know it. What is that? That's a basic element of sixth sense which is already endowed to you. You are already endowed with the sixth sense, but it's not fully developed. Okay, to be able to be used for the Paramatma state, the Para state, or the Shuddha Sattva state before that, where every element is dormant. Okay. So what we say therefore is, the more your Panchabhuta Sharir gets thinned and becomes sukshma, this sukshma sense, or the sixth sense, the subtle sense, starts to develop. And for that, the base that is required is not this Panchabhuta Sharir, which is dense, thimmer, extensive thimmer, okay, but it has to be made subtle, thinner. More thinner it gets, more sukshma capabilities that you get, both from sensing and doing. Okay. Now, the sixth sense is what Vedanta develops into a concept called consciousness. And with all your yogic practices, while you do the yoga, on one hand, to thin the Panchabhuta mixture, it's like you thin the Panchabhuta mixture, your sukshma capabilities go up. The more thinner it is, the more sukshma you can get. Okay. So as long as your body is being held, you can see all that. And when you die, anyway, this one, which is whatever state it has moved up, it will get out. That's the jiva, we call it in Vedanta. Sukshma Sharir is the jiva that goes off. It will get another body. But when it gets that body, it will get a body which can suit that Sukshma Sharira. That means you will not be born with the same state of the Panchabhuta mixture, but you will be born with a different level of Panchabhuta mixture to be able to be using that Sukshma Sharira. So whatever you do in this birth will be carried forward to the next birth through the composition of the Sukshma Sharira and Sukshma capabilities, both in sensing and doing. That's in a sense a karma phala. Okay. And then you will take appropriate bodies. Even if you take a human body, you will take a body which has less thimir of Panchabhuta. If you have gone beyond that, then you will take a different body. So if you see, I have linked Bhuta Shuddhi, Nadi Shuddhi ideas with Ashtanga Yoga and biology on one hand, and I have brought in and linked it to the idea of Vedanta and Vedic ideas of rebirth. It's time to pause. We'll hit the button of stop now, and then we'll continue in the next episode. Okay, and then deal with a few things before we conclude one logical piece. Thank you.